It's like a slew of agreements that's happening. UAE last week, Australia this week, and that too at a critical time.
Well, Prime Minister Modi has built such wonderful relationships around the world and has earned the trust of business leaders, of political leadership of the developed world. Today, the world is looking at India as a trusted partner and they want to expand their engagement. They are looking at the huge opportunities that India gives them in terms of improving the level of services in their country, improving the quality of goods in their country, improving the value of, for example, our health engagement, the fact that we can provide some of the finest quality clothes, leather products, pharma, of course, automobiles, engineering components. The world is looking at India as a provider of goods and services of high quality at very attractive prices and looks at India as a country which has the rule of law, which works in a transparent mechanism and therefore wants to expand engagement with India. Of course, they also get access to a large Indian market,
Yes.
but we need high technology products, we need high quality raw materials and intermediates, and we are very carefully calibrating the impact of each of these agreements. I mean, I can tell you, both teams would have worked sleepless nights for months together, but they have to look into the 50-year future when you are making such agreements. So while doing these agreements, you take care to protect your industry wherever required, which is our defensive proposition. And then there's an offensive interest where we are looking at greater engagement and market access. And collectively, that makes for a good free trade agreement.
But also strategically, although India and Australia have had divergent views with the Russia-Ukraine crisis, there seems to be a convergence in one interest, that is looking at India as an alternative to China. Do you think this agreement with Australia is the biggest endorsement of that shift happening globally?
Well, clearly that shift is there for all to see, which is why countries are very keen to also expand our engagement much faster. And it helps when Prime Minister Modi's relation with his counterpart in each of these countries is so strong. The messaging down the line is very clear, both to me and my counterparts, to our teams, that India today means business. And India is out to bring prosperity to 135 crore Indians. And that prosperity will come with greater engagement. Anand, you are aware that all the countries in the world which have prospered on the back of international trade. And international trade can never be one way. It is always two way. I mean, look at all the world's developed nations, the ones which are emerging as developed countries. They have all engaged with the world with greater degree of openness, both in terms of partnerships, investments, and trade in goods and services. And therefore, I believe that the India-Australia ECTA, signifying unity, is a great message for the world. It's going to be a template on which the developed world would be able to engage with India in the coming months and years. As regards Ukraine, I must say that Prime Minister Scott Morrison in the last Quad meeting was most understanding of India's very balanced approach. We believe this conflict must come to an end quickly. India has never been an aggressor.
Right.
We are a peace-loving country, and I think the world recognizes and appreciates that.
Right. Australia has taken positions. India maintains its strategic autonomy, so that's something which is important. But Minister Saab, if I may ask you, in the past, free trade agreements or agreements have not been on India's favor. This time around, we've changed our posture where, you know the term, what's in it for me. I like to say W3Is, what's in it for India. So let me ask you that. Is this fairly equitable kind of an agreement?
No good agreement can ever succeed if it is imbalanced, unfair, not equitable. And which is why I very often said that some of the agreements we did in the past were probably done without adequate consultations, without stakeholder engagements. Many times we did not take care about the market access. Many times we missed out on understanding which are really the areas of our offensive interest which we should have got access, and which are the areas we have to take care. This time around, under Prime Minister Modi's guidance, both at the UAE and Australia negotiations and for future negotiations, the extent of stakeholder consultations is humongous. I mean, I would have at the official level and at my level, collectively, had probably 175 to 200 engagements, either with export promotion councils or with industry associations, sometimes sectorally, sometimes even with individual stakeholders. Of course, interministerial consultations also with over 30 odd departments and multiple rounds. So if I add that, this would probably number would go to 300 plus. But what I'm trying to express is that we have taken very careful note of every input, both, as I said, for our defensive positions on many areas. So you will see there's no dairy, there's no access to wheat, no access to rice, no access to chickpeas, no access to sugar, no concessions in all of these, no concessions in apples. So we've taken very, very cautious and conscious decisions while agreeing to things. And likewise, Australia has, in their own way, they've opened 100% of their market. But it is an economy which is looking at opening its doors to Indian products fully. So they want to welcome every product that India can offer at competitive prices and of high quality. They want to welcome our young boys and girls. They want to welcome our startups. They are welcoming our IT industry, which is why we have agreed to simultaneously resolve the income tax problem, which Indian IT companies were facing. And I'm sure NASSCOM and all our IT majors will today be celebrating, because their business is going to grow by leaps and bounds after today. So it's a day of celebration in the country as we celebrate Gudi Padwa, the advent of the new year. I think Prime Minister Modi has sweetened our Gudi Padwa celebration.
Well, my final question, sir. It started out as an interim engagement. It's quite an enhanced one, but the pressure is on us to deliver, because we have the opportunity as a country, because Australia is, like you said, opening up the market. So are you taking a delegation which is going to put this into force? From how soon are we going to see this agreement in force?
Well, after we sign any free trade agreement, there is a process of ratification, parliamentary approvals, our own processes. So it takes about 3 or 4 months. Sometimes can be done faster also, like UAE. We have done in a record time. 1st May, we are hoping to have entry into force of that agreement. This one may take about 4 odd months because they have an election, and after that they'll take parliamentary approval.
So
but
it will last the test of politics there in Australia.
Well, all countries like Australia and India are well-meaning democracies. They believe in continuity in government. The bureaucracy is always the same, and whose job it is to protect national interests on both sides. So I don't think that is any issue of concern in any case. And important thing is that this agreement is so equitable and balanced that on both sides, there's not going to be any discontentment. I'm told that since morning over there, and we've already through the day in Australia, working day, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of positivity about this agreement. I think Indian business people also would be celebrating, because everything they wanted is in this agreement. The access to pharma in a very fast-track manner, the melt and pour condition to ensure that only domestically produced steel, either in India or Australia, gets access in the other country. We have taken MRA commitments so that both countries work in the next 12 months to deepen our engagement through mutual recognition of each other's professional bodies and quality standards. You know that we in India, under Prime Minister's guidance, are working towards one nation, one standard, which will help India become a global player. And we recognize that Australia-India partnership goes far beyond the just business or just a few students going there. This is a very strategic relationship. We will, of course, expand the contours of this in the months to come after we enter into force this part. It will help our students in a big way. It will help our cooks, our yoga instructors, our tourism visitors. Everybody stands to benefit. And most importantly,
You're traveling.
My delegation, the business delegation that's going with me next week, similar to the one we took to UAE last week. And I tell you, the UAE delegation came back absolutely mesmerized with the opportunities. The gem and jewelry sector said we'll double in less than 2 years.
Wow.
Pharma said we'll triple in the next 3 or 4 years in UAE. The textile sector said we'll double in probably 1 year. Similar was the excitement when I would have stakeholder consultations in India, and I think the business delegation there will engage with businesses there, will engage with their counterpart industry sectors there, and I'm sure when we enter into force, we'll use this intervening period of 3-4 months to build up our relationships.
True. We are 25 to 50 billion. Doubling is what you've spoken about, Minister Saab. So let's hope that happens. Something's working that an Imran Khan also wants to trade with India. He's praising Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So something's happening. They want to play cricket with us too again.
Well, Prime Minister Modi is a charismatic leader. I'm sure you're aware that today and for the last 7 years in a row, he has continuously emerged as the tallest leader, the most popular leader in the world. His role at the global stage is being appreciated and recognized. He's being invited to really show light to the world how we can bring greater peace and greater well-being of mankind as a whole, on sustainability, on environment, on climate change. He has emerged as a global leader, the voice of the developing world, and I'm sure under his leadership, India will continue to grow and bring prosperity to 135 crore Indians.